What if the planet you've always called home suddenly began to feel a little too small? Imagine that feeling, that deep-seated yearning for something more, for the vast, endless frontier just beyond our blue sky. Stick around, because this story might just spark a new beginning for you too. And hey, before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. Now, I want you to think about something. What's that one thing, that one memory or person that always pushes you forward even when things get tough? For Sophia Green, that anchor was a jumble of starlight, childhood dreams, and the faint scent of freshly tilled earth. Right now, she's sitting in a folding chair, lost in the cavernous conference hall of the Space Horizons headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The place is buzzing. You can feel it in the air. The low hum of cameras, the constant murmur of reporters whispering theories, the quiet, focused energy of technicians making last-minute adjustments. It's a familiar scene for Sophia, a veteran of countless press events. But tonight is different. Tonight, the air is thick with an electric charge, a potent mix of unbridled expectation and a deep, gnawing unease. She shifts in her seat, the simple movement feeling monumental under the weight of the moment. The bright lights overhead feel like spotlights on her own soul. On the massive screen behind the stage, a single name glows, a name that has become synonymous with breaking boundaries: Elon Musk. The sight of it sends a jolt through her, pulling her back to a time when she was just a little girl in Kansas, her face illuminated by the glow of a computer screen. She can still feel the wonder watching blurry online footage of rockets defying gravity, tearing through the atmosphere on pillars of fire. Her eyes would shine, her small heart racing with a fierce, inexplicable joy. It was a calling even then. She drew a deep breath now. The sterile, air-conditioned air of the conference hall, a stark contrast to the memories flooding her mind. She thought of her brother, Adam, 10 years older, her childhood hero. He used to lift her onto his broad shoulders on clear Kansas nights, so her small face was level with the cosmos. "See, Soph," he'd say, his voice a low rumble. "They're not just lights, they're worlds." Together they'd trace the constellations, naming the stars, dreaming of visiting them. He was her first co-pilot, her first mission commander. But life has a way of charting different courses for people, even for siblings who once shared the same sky. They'd grown apart. He stayed, choosing the soil over the stars, taking over the family farm as their parents grew older. He was grounded, literally, his hands in the earth that had sustained their family for generations. Meanwhile, Sophia had left, chasing rockets and equations, her gaze always fixed upward. The rift between them wasn't angry, just distant. A quiet, aching space created by different dreams. But the memories of him, they were her fuel. The sound of his easy laughter echoing across the wheat fields, the rich, earthy smell of the farm after a spring rain, the memory of his strong, comforting embrace. She had tucked all of it away, deep in a corner of her heart, a secret power source for the lonely nights and the grueling work, for everything she hoped to achieve. Because tonight wasn't just about her. It was about fulfilling a promise made to a little girl on her brother's shoulders. A sudden hush falls over the hall, a collective intake of breath that sucks the air out of the room. The stage door swings open, and there he is. Elon Musk steps into the light. A wave of flash pops from the cameras cascades across the room, like a shower of man-made starlight. He offers a quick, familiar wave, a brief smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, and then his expression shifts. He becomes serious, focused. The weight of his announcement settles over him and over all of them. The entire room, every reporter, every technician, every dreamer like Sophia, leans in, hanging on the precipice of a single word. The screen behind him flickers to life, not with a logo, but with a breathtaking high-definition image of Mars. The red planet, bathed in an ethereal light. The quiet in the room deepens. For generations, Musk begins, his voice steady and resonant, amplified throughout the hall. We have looked to the stars and wondered. We have dreamed. But dreams are not enough. He pauses, letting the words sink in. The time for wondering is over. The time for dreaming is over. The time for doing is now. Sophia's heart hammers against her ribs. This is it. This is the moment she's dedicated her entire life to. Today, Musk continues, I am not here to announce a new rocket or a new plan. I am here to announce the first crew, the pioneers who will take humanity's next great leap, the first citizens of Mars. A collective gasp ripples through the audience. On the screen, the image of Mars dissolves, replaced by a series of portraits. One by one, faces appear. A seasoned biologist from Japan, a brilliant engineer from Germany, a stoic Russian cosmonaut, and then, her own face, Sophia Green, her official astronaut portrait, smiling, confident, her eyes full of the very stars she'd chased her whole life. The room erupts. The sound is deafening, a tidal wave of applause, shouts, and the frantic clicking of 1,000 cameras. But Sophia hears none of it. All she can hear is the frantic, triumphant drumming of her own heart. It's real. It's all real. She's going to Mars. The world around her blurs into a whirlwind of light and sound. People are patting her on the back, shaking her hand. Their faces a mix of awe and congratulations. She smiles. She nods. She says, "Thank you," on autopilot, but her mind is a million miles away. It's back in Kansas under a blanket of stars on her brother's shoulders. Later that night, long after the press conference has ended and the crowds have dispersed, Sophia finds herself alone in her small, sterile apartment. The adrenaline is starting to fade, replaced by a profound, quiet sense of reality. She pulls out her phone. Her hands are shaking slightly as she scrolls through her contacts and finds Adam's name. She hesitates. What does she even say? "Hey, big brother. Remember how we used to look at the stars? Well, I'm going to one." She takes a deep breath and hits the call button. It rings once, twice. She's about to hang up, figuring it's late on the farm, when he answers. "Soph?" His voice is groggy, laced with sleep, but it's unmistakably him. It's the voice of her childhood. "Adam, hey, did I wake you?" "It's all right. Is everything okay? I saw the news." His voice trails off. Tears spring to Sophia's eyes. Of course he saw. "Yeah," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "You saw." There's a long silence on the line, filled with years of unspoken words, of separate paths and diverging dreams. But it's not an empty silence. It's a silence full of shared history. "When you get there," Adam says finally, his voice soft but clear, "when you're standing on that red dirt, look up, find Earth, and know that your big brother is looking right back at you. I'm proud of you, Soph. I always have been." And in that moment, the millions of miles that were about to separate them collapsed into nothing. The farm boy and the astronaut, two kids from Kansas, were together again, united under the same infinite star-dusted sky. Her journey forward wasn't just about reaching a new world. It was about honoring the one she came from and the people who helped her learn to fly. What an incredible story, right? It just shows that no matter how far we go or how high we fly, our roots are what give us the strength to reach for the stars. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Until next time, keep looking up. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a pivotal moment in human history. For millennia, our home, Earth, has been extraordinary. It has nurtured us, challenged us, and shaped us into who we are today. But what if Earth is no longer enough? Tonight, I reveal our most ambitious plan yet, Project Artemis Rise, the first viable interplanetary city ship designed to depart Earth within the next decade. My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. Could this be real? Was I, Sophia, an engineer who spent her days trying to solve terrestrial problems, about to help build something that outsized everything I'd ever known? The presenter, a figure synonymous with audacious dreams, continued, his voice ringing with conviction. "We're not merely visiting other planets," he declared. "We're preparing to leave Earth sooner than we think, and in doing so, we will ensure Earth's future by redirecting innovation, resources, and hope beyond its borders." As if on autopilot, I raised my phone, the camera lens a tiny, unblinking eye capturing this monumental announcement. The flash was a small starburst in the grand auditorium. In that split second, the camera panned across the crowd and caught me, freezing my image on the massive screens flanking the stage. My face, a mask of shock and awe, was broadcast for all to see. The room's atmosphere shifted instantly. The stunned silence broke into a cascade of excited murmurs, confused glances, and frantic whispers. A wave of heat washed over me. I felt that familiar, unwelcome tug of uncertainty, a knot tightening in my stomach. Would I be a part of this? Did I even want to be? The presentation ended in a thunder of applause, but it felt distant, muffled by the roaring in my ears. I slipped out of the auditorium and into the relative quiet of the grand hallway. The chatter behind me was a dull roar, the sound of a future being debated in real time. Ahead, I saw her, my mentor, Dr. Karen Lee. Tall, composed, and radiating an aura of calm authority, she was already encircled by a swarm of journalists, their microphones like a metallic bouquet. Her eyes found mine over the sea of heads, and she offered a subtle nod, beckoning me closer. As I navigated through the throng, Karen's voice, though soft, cut through the noise. "Sophia," she said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "He mentioned our research group by name. They're forming a core engineering team for Artemis Rise." She paused, her gaze intense. "He said they were looking for someone who can think Earth first, space forward. Sophia, that's you. That's your entire philosophy." A smile felt foreign on my face, but I forced one anyway. The words were a compliment, a huge one, but they landed with the weight of an anchor. This was everything I'd worked for, yet it felt like a crossroads I wasn't ready to face. "Karen," I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper, "are we really going to leave Earth in 10 years? A whole city ship?" The idea was so immense, so final. What about the climate crisis? Our obligations here? What about the billions of people we'd be leaving behind? My questions hung in the air between us, a stark contrast to the celebratory mood of the evening. Karen's composed expression softened with a hint of something I couldn't quite read. Was it sympathy? Or was it the gentle patience of someone who had already wrestled with these same doubts and found her answers? She guided me away from the reporters, toward a quieter alcove overlooking the city lights. "Leaving isn't the right word, Sophia," she began, her tone measured. "Think of it as branching out, like a great tree extending a new limb towards the sun. The main trunk, Earth, doesn't die. In fact, the new growth can make the entire tree stronger." She gestured to the glittering cityscape below. "The technology we developed for Artemis Rise, advanced life support, closed-loop recycling, fusion energy, that's not just for space. That technology comes back here. It's the breakthrough we need to solve the very problems you're worried about." It was a compelling argument, the one they always made, the trickle-down theory of technological salvation. But I'd heard it before, and I'd seen the promises fall short. "But the resources, Karen," I countered, feeling the passion rise in my voice. "The sheer amount of capital, materials, and brainpower needed for a project this massive. What if we directed all of that energy right now to healing this planet? Wouldn't that be a more direct, a more ethical choice?" I could feel the old fire of my activist days rekindling. I wasn't just an engineer, I was an Earth-first advocate. This project felt like a betrayal of that core principle. Karen sighed a long, thoughtful breath. "Ethical choices are rarely simple, Sophia. Is it more ethical to focus all our efforts on a single basket, however precious, when we have the means to build another? Artemis Rise isn't an escape plan for the elite. It's a lifeboat. It's an insurance policy for humanity." She looked me straight in the eye. "And it's also a beacon of hope. For centuries, we've looked to the stars and dreamed. That dream inspires children to become scientists. It pushes us to be better. to reach higher. Sometimes fixing the problems at your feet requires you to lift your gaze to the horizon. Her words resonated, but the conflict within me raged on. A lifeboat. For whom? A beacon of hope. At what cost? We stood in silence for a moment, 2 generations of scientists staring out at a world teetering on a precipice. The choice wasn't just about engineering or physics, it was about philosophy, about morality, about the future of our species. The project was named Artemis Rise. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, but also of the wilderness and the moon. A protector. Was this project a hunt for a new home, or a way to protect the one we already had? They want to meet with you, Sophia, Karen said softly, breaking the silence. Tomorrow morning, the head of the project's core systems team. The reality of it crashed down on me. This wasn't a hypothetical debate anymore. A door had opened, a door leading to the stars. But walking through it felt like turning my back on the world that lay sprawling at my feet. Could I do it? Could I reconcile my duty to the earth with this incredible, terrifying opportunity to reach for another world? The city lights blurred as I stared out the window, my reflection staring back, asking the same impossible question. The choice was mine, and it would define not just my future, but a small piece of humanity's as well. Thank you so much for joining me on this thought experiment. It's a story that really makes you think about our future and the choices we face. If you enjoyed this narrative and want to explore more stories like it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us create more content for you. See you in the next one. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a story that asks a huge question. What if you were offered a chance to save the world, but it meant leaving everything you know behind? Let's explore the journey of a character named Sophia, who finds herself at this very crossroads. Picture this. Sophia is standing with her mentor Karen just after a massive world-changing announcement. Karen puts a hand on her shoulder and says something that flips Sophia's entire world upside down. This isn't about abandoning Earth. It's about giving Earth a fighting chance, but yes, we're signing up, and yes, you're on the short list. Imagine that feeling. Your stomach does a flip-flop, a crazy mix of pure excitement and absolute terror. Sophia looks out at the chaos of media crews, her phone buzzing non-stop. It's a barrage of notifications, a snapshot of her life right at that moment. A text from her boyfriend, Jake, filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Then a sharp, stinging thumbs-down emoji from a colleague, Marcus. It's a gut punch, a reminder that not everyone will be cheering for her. And then, silence. Nothing from Adam, someone she clearly expected to hear from. That silence is deafening, isn't it? It's in that precise moment of mixed messages and crushing silence that the reality hits her. Her life is changing right now, whether she's ready or not. As she steps out into the cool Los Angeles evening, the city lights sprawl beneath the vast dark sky. It's like looking at a map of infinite possibilities, a border between her old life and a future she can barely even imagine. This isn't just a career move. It's a fundamental shift in her destiny. She's being pulled into something immense, a current so strong she might not be able to resist. Have you ever had a moment like that, where you can physically feel the ground shifting under your feet? It's both exhilarating and terrifying. The drive home is a blur. Her hands are probably trembling on the steering wheel as she dials Jake. Her voice is shaky when she finally speaks. "Jake, did you see the announcement?" His reply comes back, trying so hard to be calm, but she can hear the tremor in his voice too. "I did. Sophia, are you going to be part of it?" That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It hangs in the air between them. She takes a deep breath, the kind you take when you're about to say something that will change everything. "I might be. I'm being considered." The word wow is all he can manage at first. It's a small word for such a massive concept. "When do you decide?" he asks, his voice filled with a million unasked questions. "What does this mean for them? For their future?" "I don't know," she admits, and her honesty is heartbreaking. Karen said soon, but Jake, part of me, wonders what this really means. And this is the core of her struggle. It's not just about the logistics or the danger, it's about the purpose. Is this a noble sacrifice or a grand escape? Is she running toward a solution or away from her life, her relationships, her home? Jake is silent for a moment, processing it all. And then he says the words she needs to hear, the anchor in her storm. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. That unwavering support is everything. But he adds one crucial piece of advice, a guiding star for the journey ahead. Just promise you'll remember what drives you. This is such a powerful moment. He's not telling her what to do. He's reminding her to stay true to herself, to her core motivations. In the face of a mission that could literally change the fate of humanity, it's so easy to lose sight of the individual, of the why. Why did she get into this field in the first place? What spark ignited her passion? That's what she needs to hold on to. So, let's put ourselves in Sophia's shoes. The government, a corporation, whoever, has selected you for a mission of unprecedented scale. Maybe it's colonizing a new planet, or building a shield to protect Earth from a cosmic threat. You're on the shortlist. Your life as you know it is over. The initial thrill is undeniable. You're one of the chosen few. You have a chance to make a real, lasting difference. But then the dread creeps in. You think about your family, your friends, the partner you love. You think about Sunday mornings, the smell of rain, your favorite coffee shop, all the small, beautiful things that make up a life. And you have to choose. Do you take the leap? Do you embrace this new, extraordinary destiny and say goodbye to your ordinary, wonderful life? What would you do? This dilemma forces us to confront what we truly value. Is it personal happiness and connection? Or is it a sense of duty to the greater good? And can those two things ever truly coexist when the stakes are this high? Sophia's journey is just beginning. She has to navigate the treacherous waters of public opinion, professional jealousy from people like Marcus, and the deafening silence from people like Adam. Each interaction will either strengthen her resolve or chip away at it. She'll have to look deep inside herself and answer Jake's challenge. What truly drives her? Is it ambition, a desire for discovery, or a profound love for the world she might have to leave behind? This story is a brilliant exploration of sacrifice, ambition, and the very human heart. It reminds us that even when we're faced with decisions of cosmic importance, our choices are often guided by the most personal, intimate parts of ourselves. What drives you in your life? What is the core principle you would hold on to if your world was turned upside down? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. I find stories like this so fascinating because they reflect our own choices back at us, just on a much grander scale. If you enjoyed this analysis and want to explore more stories that make you think, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you more content like this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do in Sophia's position? I can't wait to read your answers. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. She closed her eyes. What was it that truly drove her? She pictured her brother's infectious laughter, the gentle lines forming on her parents' aging faces. She remembered the grand, NASA-style speeches about exploration she had soaked up as a child, words that painted pictures of new frontiers and endless possibilities. Then she thought of her own quiet ambition, that deep-seated longing to be part of something monumental, something bigger than just her own life. And with that ambition came the subtle, persistent guilt of leaving things and people behind. Jake, she finally said into the phone, her voice a soft murmur. There's one thing that always pushes me forward, even when everything feels impossible. It's this feeling, this certainty that there's more out there, more than this room, more than this city, more than this whole planet. Does that even make sense? Yes, he replied, his voice a comforting anchor on the other end of the line. It makes perfect sense, and remember, you'll never do it alone. As she ended the call, she pulled her car into the dark driveway of her small bungalow in Hawthorne. The stars above seemed to burn with an unusual brightness tonight. She stepped out, the cool night air a welcome touch on her face. Looking up at the infinite, glittering canvas, a single question echoed in her mind. Are we ready? The opening spark had been lit. Sophia's world, and perhaps the world of all humanity, was standing on the precipice of an incredible change. In the weeks following the official announcement, the halls of Space Horizons buzzed with an electric energy, like a pre-launch engine humming to life. Sophia moved through the controlled chaos with a growing, focused intensity. She had been assigned to the core design team for Project Artemis Rise. This was the heart of the operation, a specialized wing of the facility where colossal rockets stirred on hidden launch pads and aerodynamic wind tunnels whined their secrets into the dead of night. Every corridor carried the distinct scent of progress, the sharp, clean smell of composite resin and the metallic tang of fresh-cut metal. It was the perfume of creation. Her life fell into a new, demanding rhythm. She found herself wide awake at odd hours, fueled by a potent mix of coffee and pure adrenaline. More often than not, she was wearing the same comfortable hoodie, her mind too consumed with complex equations and design schematics to care about anything else. Sleep became a luxury, a brief interruption in a continuous stream of work. The project was her world. Her days were a blur of meetings in sterile conference rooms where whiteboards were covered in a chaotic tapestry of diagrams and calculations. She'd spend hours debating thrust-to-weight ratios with seasoned engineers who had worked on missions she'd only read about in textbooks. She argued for new, lighter alloys with metallurgists, her voice gaining confidence with every successful point she made. Her nights were spent hunched over a holographic interface, her fingers dancing across the light, manipulating 3D models of the spacecraft's command module. She was refining every curve, every connection, ensuring it wasn't just functional, but perfect. This wasn't just a job, it was an obsession. Sophia was building a vessel that would carry human dreams to the stars. The weight of that responsibility was immense, but it was also exhilarating. She felt a connection to the long line of pioneers who had come before her, the dreamers, the builders, the explorers who dared to look up and ask, what if? Each solved equation, each successful simulation, was a small victory, a step closer to turning that what if into a reality. Her apartment became a secondary command center, its walls covered in printouts of star charts and orbital mechanics. Her friends would call, their voices tinged with a mix of concern and awe. "Are you eating? Are you sleeping?" they'd ask. She'd offer vague reassurances, but the truth was she was being nourished by something else entirely. Purpose. One evening, exhausted but unable to switch off her brain, she found herself walking through the silent assembly bay. The massive skeletal frame of the Artemis Rise lander stood before her, bathed in the soft glow of the work lights. It was a cathedral of metal and wire, a testament to human ingenuity. She reached out and placed her hand on its cold, metallic skin. It felt solid, real. In that moment, the exhaustion melted away, replaced by a profound sense of awe. This was it. This was the more she had been searching for. The project demanded everything from her time, her energy, her intellect. But it also gave her something invaluable in return. It gave her a community. The design team became her family. They shared late-night pizzas over schematics, celebrated breakthroughs with tired cheers, and supported each other through frustrating setbacks. They were all bound by the same audacious dream. There was David, the lead aerodynamicist, a man with a quiet demeanor, but a mind that could visualize airflow like a painter sees color. There was Maria, the propulsion expert, whose passionate arguments about fuel efficiency could fill a room. And there was old Dr. Eris Thorne, a living legend who had worked on the Apollo missions, his eyes still sparkling with the same fire of discovery that had propelled humanity to the moon half a century ago. Sophia absorbed their knowledge, their experience, their passion. She wasn't just building a spacecraft, she was being built herself, forged in the crucible of this monumental endeavor. One particular challenge centered on the heat shield. The re-entry simulations were showing a critical failure point at a specific angle of attack. The team was at a dead end, the mood in the lab growing heavier with each failed test. Sophia, unable to let it go, took the problem home. She filled notebooks, ran her own simulations on her personal terminal, and fell asleep with the problem swirling in her head. Then, in the hazy moments just before dawn, it came to her. A dream, a flash of insight. It wasn't about a new material, but a new geometry. A subtle biomimicking pattern inspired by the scales of a pangolin she'd seen in a documentary years ago. A design that could dissipate heat more effectively by creating micro-vortices across the surface. She raced into the lab, her heart pounding. She sketched it out on the whiteboard, her hand moving with a certainty she hadn't felt before. The team gathered around, skepticism slowly turning into intrigue, then excitement. They ran the new simulation. As the virtual craft blazed through the atmosphere, the numbers on the screen held steady. The temperature remained within safe limits. A collective breath was released, followed by a burst of applause. In that moment, looking at the faces of her colleagues, illuminated by the glow of the successful simulation, Sophia understood. This was the essence of the journey. It wasn't just about the final destination among the stars. It was about the struggle, the collaboration, the shared moments of despair and triumph. It was about a group of ordinary people daring to achieve something extraordinary, together. The road ahead was still long, paved with countless challenges yet to come. But as Sophia stood there, in the heart of the machine that would carry humanity forward, she felt a quiet, unshakable confidence. She was no longer just a girl who dreamed of the stars. She was one of the people building the way to get there. The stars still seemed impossibly far, but for the first time, they also felt within reach. She was ready. They were ready. The journey had truly begun. Thank you so much for joining me on this part of Sophia's story. If you're as captivated by the dream of space exploration as I am, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. We're just getting started. See you in the next video. Do you ever feel like you're caught between two worlds? The one you came from and the one you're desperately trying to build? For me, that feeling hits hardest on nights like this, when the city lights of California try their best to outshine the stars, but fail. It takes me back to a different kind of night, under a much bigger sky. I'm thinking of my brother's farm in Kansas. The air was so clear you felt like you could reach out and touch the Milky Way. My brother Adam, he was the practical one. He'd bring out this old heavy telescope, and technically it was for him to show me the constellations. But it was always me, wasn't it? Me, grabbing the eyepiece, pointing it towards some distant, shimmering nebula, completely lost in the cosmic dance. Adam would just shake his head and smile. He was grounded, literally. His world was the rich Kansas soil, the rhythm of the seasons, the legacy of our family. We used to have these epic arguments under that starry canopy. He'd say, "Soph, stay, help Mom and Dad. Our roots matter more than anything." And I'd shoot back, "But Adam, look up. We're meant to launch, to aim higher, the stars matter." He saw it as leaving. I saw it as reaching. It wasn't that I didn't love my family or the farm. It was just, my spirit was already in orbit, pulled by a gravity all its own. The day I packed my bags for California, a silence fell between us that lasted for years. It wasn't angry, just heavy, like a closed door. But even hundreds of miles away, pursuing a dream he couldn't quite understand, I carried his voice with me. It was a whisper in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of where I came from, a sort of anchor even as I was trying to build a rocket. And build, I did. Landing a job at one of the most ambitious aerospace companies on the planet felt like docking with a space station. The energy was electric. My team, led by the incredible Karen, was my new constellation. We were the dreamers, the engineers, the ones turning science fiction into fact. I dove headfirst into the work, spending sleepless nights modeling the habitat module for our future Mars colony. I lived and breathed gravity simulators and life support systems. Every single day was a step closer to the stars I'd pointed at as a kid. The excitement wasn't just a low hum. It was a roaring engine. I remember every single triumph like it was yesterday. The day our first hydroponic dome prototype sustained a full growth cycle. The sheer relief and joy when a critical rocket stage test fired for 10 seconds longer than any of us had dared to hope. And oh, the mood in the clean room. I'll never forget it. We were all suited up working on a delicate component when the big boss himself, Elon, walked through. He paused, looked over my shoulder at my schematics, and just nodded. A simple, single nod. In that moment, I felt like I could personally fly the rocket to Mars. That nod was worth more than 1,000 words of praise. The hum of possibility wasn't just intoxicating, it was my lifeblood. But you know how it is. Where there's great light, there are always shadows. My shadow had a name, Marcus Carter. He was a senior systems engineer, sharp as a tack but competitive to a fault. From day one, he saw me not as a colleague, but as a threat. The up-and-coming girl, as he once dismissively called me to an intern, thinking I couldn't hear. In meetings, he became my personal gravitational pull, always trying to drag my ideas back down to earth. If I presented a concept, he'd find a flaw, no matter how small. He'd challenge my data, question my timelines, and ask for endless revisions on work he knew was solid. He had this way of undermining me, especially in front of the interns, framing his critiques as just trying to maintain standards. But we all knew what it was. It was a power play. He was trying to clip my wings before I could even fully spread them. It was exhausting. I was pouring my heart and soul into this project, running on passion and caffeine, and here was this constant friction, this political game I had no interest in playing. I just wanted to build. I just wanted to solve the problems that would get us to Mars. But Marcus was making it clear that the biggest obstacle might not be physics or engineering, but the person at the desk next to you. I tried to handle it. I double-checked my work, triple-checked my data, and came to every meeting armed with so much evidence that my presentations were practically bulletproof. But it was like trying to reason with a brick wall. He wasn't interested in a constructive debate. He was interested in winning. And I was getting tired of the fight. One evening, I was staring at my screen, the numbers blurring together when a message popped up. It was from Karen. "Got a minute, Sophia? Swing by my office." My stomach dropped. I immediately thought of Marcus. Had he gone to her with some complaint? My mind raced through our last meeting, trying to pinpoint what he could have twisted. I walked the long hallway to her office, the cheerful buzz of the floor fading behind me, my footsteps echoing louder than they should. Karen's office was an oasis of calm in the beautiful chaos of the company. She smiled warmly as I entered. "Close the door," she said. That's when I knew this was serious. I sat down, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. "Sophia," she began, her gaze direct but kind. "I've heard Marcus raised some concerns about the schedule you proposed for the life support integration." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Of course, it was about the schedule. "I ran the simulations 3 times, Karen," I started, the defensiveness creeping into my voice. "My model is sound. It's an aggressive timeline, I know, but it holds. We can do it if we reallocate resources from—" She held up a hand, interrupting me, but gently. "Sophia, stop. It's not about your model." She paused, letting that sink in. "I have no doubt your model is perfect. It's about the pressure." I frowned, confused. "The pressure?" "Elon's timeline for the entire Mars program is aggressive," she said, an understatement if I'd ever heard one. "We are planning to launch a crewed mission in less than a decade. That is completely fundamentally unheard of. We're not just breaking the rules of aerospace engineering, we're rewriting the whole book." She leaned forward, her expression serious. "People are getting nervous. Not just Marcus. People in management, people in finance. They're worried about perception. They're worried the public won't get behind something this fast, this audacious. They're terrified that one slip-up, one missed deadline, will cause our funding to slip through our fingers." It all started to click. Marcus wasn't just being a jerk, he was scared. His attacks weren't just about me. They were a symptom of a much larger anxiety gripping the entire project. He was using my ambitious proposals as a scapegoat, a way to voice his own fear that we were moving too fast, that we were going to fail. Karen continued, her voice dropping a little. This place is a wave, Sophia. A massive, magnificent, once-in-a-generation wave, and you have the talent to ride it all the way to the shore. I want you to ride it." She paused again and her eyes locked onto mine. "And I also need you to be ready for the churn underneath. The undertow is strong. It can pull you down if you're not prepared for it. Marcus is part of that churn." She was giving me a lesson that went far beyond engineering. This wasn't about calculations or material science. This was about people, about fear, ambition, and the messy human dynamics that exist even when you're trying to achieve something superhuman. She was telling me that to navigate this path, I needed more than just a brilliant mind. I needed to understand the currents. I needed to be resilient, not just in my designs but in my spirit. She wasn't telling me to back down. She was telling me how to stay afloat. I left her office that night feeling different. The frustration with Marcus was still there, but it was now contextualized. It was smaller. My real challenge wasn't a single competitive colleague. It was the immense, terrifying, exhilarating reality of what we were trying to do. Walking back to my desk, I thought about Adam and the farm. He wanted me to stay grounded, to value my roots. I wanted to launch, to reach for the stars. And here, in the heart of my dream, Karen had just shown me that I had to do both. I had to be the rocket, aiming for the heavens with every ounce of my being. And I also had to be the anchor, steady and strong, aware of the powerful currents trying to pull me off course. The stars matter, and the roots matter. Maybe after all this time, I was finally starting to understand how to hold on to both at once. Thanks so much for watching and coming along on this journey with me. If this story resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in the next one. Sophia nodded, a quiet affirmation that echoed louder than words. I'm ready. She left the office, her footsteps a lonely rhythm in the long, sterile hallway. Each step felt deliberate, a march towards destiny. She made her way through the cavernous hangar, the air thick with the smell of ozone and industry. Her path led her to the heart of their dream, a massive cylindrical structure, the nascent core of the Artemis Rising City ship. It loomed over her, a silent titan of steel and promise. She paused, reaching out to place her hand on its cold, unyielding surface. In that single touch, she felt the crushing weight of a planet's worth of expectation, the hopes of millions resting on this single, audacious project. The tether connecting her to Earth, to everything she had ever known, suddenly felt impossibly thin, stretched to its breaking point. This was it, the point of no return. Then came the bad night, a night that would etch itself into her memory with the searing heat of failure. It started subtly, a low, insistent alarm cutting through the ambient hum of the test facility, a sound that always spelled trouble, a structural collapse, the prototype rig. The words crackled over the comms, each one a hammer blow. Sparks rained down like malevolent fireflies. The air filled with shouts as engineers scrambled, a frantic dance of chaos and desperation. Sophia, still in her lab coat, rushed towards the disaster, her voice cutting through the noise. Shut it down! Shut it down now! But it was too late. The module, a marvel of engineering just moments before, twisted grotesquely. The support braces designed to withstand incredible forces groaned and then cracked with the sound of breaking bones. Marcus, her second in command, was a whirlwind of motion, barking commands, trying to impose order on the unfolding catastrophe. Sophia felt the intense heat wash over her, the acrid smell of ionized air filling her lungs. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. A high-pitched screech tore through the air, and she instinctively ducked as a massive panel sheared off and crashed to the floor with a deafening metallic clang, missing her by inches. The impact reverberated through the concrete, a physical manifestation of their project's sudden, violent derailment. The aftermath was a scene of industrial carnage. The once pristine test rig was a mangled wreck of twisted metal and shattered components. The damage assessment was grim, a litany of setbacks, weeks of delay at a minimum, budget overruns that would threaten the entire program, And worst of all, the inevitable media leaks. Headlines were already being written, she knew. Artemis rising in trouble. Billion-dollar boondoggle. Is humanity's future grounded? The boardroom meeting that followed was tense. Elon, their visionary leader, sat at the head of the table, his face a mask of calm that barely concealed a deep, simmering frustration. His voice was low, but carried an intensity that left no room for argument. "We cannot afford hesitation," he said, his gaze sweeping across the defeated faces in the room. "Setbacks are part of the process. We knew this would be hard. We keep moving forward." His words were meant to inspire, but they felt like another layer of pressure. Keep moving? They had just hit a brick wall at 1,000 miles an hour. Sophia drove home that night with a migraine pounding behind her eyes, a physical symptom of the day's mental and emotional toll. She was exhausted, a deep, bone-weary fatigue that sleep wouldn't touch. Jake, her husband, met her at the door, his face etched with concern. "You okay?" he asked softly. The simple question almost broke her. "I'm fine," she lied, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "Just tired." He didn't press, just pulled her into a hug. As she leaned against him, the facade she had maintained all day finally crumbled. She didn't feel fine. She felt the suffocating weight of failure, the chilling reality of the risks they were taking. The shock of the collapse hadn't just been about a piece of hardware. It had crystallized a fear that had been lurking in the back of her mind. Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe they were arrogant, trying to force a future that wasn't meant to be. Maybe leaving Earth, this grand, noble, necessary exodus, wasn't going to be doable. Not on their timeline, not with their resources. A cold, insidious doubt began to gnaw at her, a parasite feeding on her exhaustion and fear. For the first time since the project began, she truly wondered if they were destined to fail. The dream of the stars suddenly seemed like a foolish, childish fantasy, and she was just one more casualty of its impossible gravity. The weight of the world felt less like an honor and more like a curse. But then, a glimmer of hope pierced through the gloom. It was early, long before the sun had even thought about waking up. I found myself climbing onto the roof of my little bungalow. The cool morning air, a sharp contrast to the constant hum of Los Angeles below. The city lights, usually so vibrant, were just a dim, hazy glow under the misty sky. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. And so was I. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I found the number. I hesitated for a second, then pressed dial. The ringing felt impossibly loud in the silence. "Hey," a familiar voice answered, laced with sleep and surprise. "Adam, it's me." A pause stretched across the thousands of miles between us. "Sophia, you're calling from LA? What's going on?" His voice, that steady, earthy voice I hadn't heard in years, was like an anchor. I needed to hear your voice." And then it all came pouring out. I told him everything. About the project, the impossible deadlines, the weight of 1,000,000 expectations. I told him about the plan to leave Earth, to build a new home among the stars. And I told him about the fear, the crippling, suffocating fear that I was in over my head, that I was going to fail not just myself, but everyone. Adam was quiet for a long time, just listening. I could picture him standing on the porch of the old farmhouse, the same stars I was trying to reach twinkling above him. When he finally spoke, his words were soft but clear. "I always knew you'd do something spectacular, Soph. Just don't forget where you came from." It was so simple, so Adam. But those words, they hit me with the force of a revelation. A knot of old regret, a tightness I'd been carrying in my chest for years, finally started to loosen. It was the regret of leaving, of choosing the city over the countryside, ambition over, well, over him. We talked for what felt like hours, even though it was probably only minutes. We talked about the farm, about how the corn was growing this year. We talked about the stars, how different they looked from the city compared to the wide open clarity of home. We even talked about the elephant in the room, the fact that I left, that I'd chosen this path and left him behind. There was no anger in his voice, only a kind of gentle understanding that I hadn't known I desperately needed. It wasn't about blame, it was about acknowledging the past, our shared history. When I finally hung up the phone, the world felt different. The first tentative rays of sunrise were peeking over the smog-hazed horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. It was a new day, and for the first time in a long time I felt like I could face it. The conversation with Adam hadn't solved my problems, but it had grounded me. It reminded me of my roots, of the person I was before all of this. It reminded me that even when you're reaching for the stars, it's okay to keep your feet firmly on the ground. I didn't go back to sleep. Fueled by a fresh surge of adrenaline and a strange sense of peace, I started working. The original plan was brilliant, ambitious, visionary. But Adam A.'s words echoed in my mind. Don't forget where you came from. Forward, but grounded. That was the key. I wasn't just building a future in space. I was carrying the legacy of Earth with me. Safety, stability, humanity. These couldn't be afterthoughts. They had to be part of the foundation. I spent the next few hours sketching out a revised plan. I didn't scrap the old one. I built upon it. I incorporated robust, redundant backup safety systems. I added contingency plans for every conceivable failure point. And most importantly, I developed an alternative, slower timeline, a more cautious, more deliberate path forward that didn't sacrifice the grand vision, but prioritized the well-being of everyone involved. It was a plan that was both ambitious and responsible. A plan that was, I hoped, quintessentially me. Walking into Space Horizons that morning, I felt a new sense of purpose. I wasn't just an engineer trying to please her bosses anymore. I was a leader, advocating for a better, safer way. I arrived early, long before anyone else, the revised proposal clutched in my hand like a shield. When the meeting started, the tension in the room was palpable. I could feel the weight of their expectations, the pressure to deliver the impossible. I took a deep breath and began. I laid out my revised plan, explaining the logic behind every change, every new protocol. I showed them how we could still achieve our goals, but with layers of security that the original plan lacked. I braced myself for dismissal, for arguments, for another round of being told I wasn't thinking big enough. Marcus, our lead engineer, listened intently, his expression unreadable. Karen, the head of operations, had a small, thoughtful smile playing on her lips. And Elon, he just watched, asking sharp, pointed questions, testing the limits of my proposal. He poked holes, challenged assumptions, and I met every query with a calm, well-reasoned answer. This wasn't a retreat from our goal, it was a fortification of it. Then, after what felt like an eternity of silence, he spoke. The words that came out of his mouth were not what I expected. This, he said, tapping the revised plan on the table. This is the kind of thinking we need. Forward, but grounded. He looked around the table, then back at me. Add it to the roadmap. A single, shaky breath escaped my lips, a breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. The tension in my shoulders eased and a warmth spread through my chest. It was hope, a powerful, swelling tide of hope. In that moment, I knew. We were still going to the stars, but now we were going to get there safely. It was a victory, not just for the project, but for the part of me that still remembered the view from a farmhouse roof, looking up at the endless, starry sky. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this part of the journey. It just goes to show that sometimes the best way to move forward is to take a moment to look back. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next video. Just as we thought we were back on track, a new crisis erupted. A solar storm, far more intense than anyone predicted, burst from the sun. The control room lit up with flashing red warnings. Radiation levels were off the charts. Panic set in. The engineers, our best and brightest, scrambled to shield the precious prototypes and models. Every circuit, every component was at risk. The fallout from this storm threatened our critical electronics, and worse, it could push back the ship's launch window by months, maybe even years. The weight of that possibility was crushing. I found myself rooted to my desk until midnight, my eyes glued to the readouts. Every new alert sent a jolt through me, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. I couldn't stop thinking about everyone counting on us. The millions of people on Earth, looking to us for a glimmer of hope. The investors who had poured their fortunes into this dream, expecting us to meet our schedules. And then there was Elon's deadline, looming over everything like a shadow. It felt like the fate of the world was resting on our shoulders, and we were about to buckle. My own personal fears began to surface, swirling around with the professional pressure. I thought of Adam, my brother back in Kansas, his memory a constant ache in my chest. I thought of Jake waiting patiently, his faith in me unwavering. And then there was my own deep-seated fear of failure, the one that whispers in my ear during the darkest hours. Was I good enough? Was I strong enough to see this through? The thought of letting them all down, of letting everyone down, was unbearable. I felt so utterly alone in that moment, drowning in the silence of the lab. Late into the night, as the facility emptied out and the silence grew heavier, Karen found me. She walked in quietly, her presence a sudden comfort in the sterile environment. She looked at my screen, then at my exhausted face. "You're overworking," she said, her voice gentle but firm. I just shrugged, unable to articulate the storm of emotions inside me. I don't want to let anyone down," I finally managed to say, the words barely a whisper. I felt so small, so fragile. The weight of it all was just too much. Karen didn't offer any empty platitudes or easy solutions. Instead, she looked at me with this profound kindness in her eyes, a kindness that seemed to see right through the scientist and into the person underneath. "Sophia," she said, her voice steady and warm, "you're human. This project, as massive and important as it is, needs human hearts to guide it. Don't ever forget that." Her words struck a chord deep inside me. It was such a simple truth, but one I had completely lost sight of amidst the deadlines and data streams. We weren't just cogs in a machine. We were the soul of it. Her words were the key that unlocked a dam I didn't even know I'd built. Tears, hot and surprising, brimmed in my eyes. It was a release of all the pressure, all the fear, all the grief I had been carrying. In that quiet, shared moment, I had a profound realization. This journey, this monumental quest to reach for the stars, wasn't just about escaping a dying Earth. It was never about leaving things behind. It was about what you carry with you. Your memories, both beautiful and painful. Your regrets, the lessons they taught you. Your hopes, the fuel for your dreams. And most importantly, your people. The ones who shape you, who love you, who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. As dawn finally broke, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the solar storm began to subside. The immediate danger had passed. A wave of relief washed over the entire team as we began to assess the damage. It was manageable. Some electronics were fried. Some components needed replacing. We would have to delay some of our planned tests and tighten our procedures to be better prepared for the next one. It was a setback, yes, a frustrating and costly one, but it wasn't a disaster. It wasn't the end of the road. It was just another obstacle we had to overcome. That morning I felt different. The fear was still there, a low hum in the background, but it was no longer overwhelming. Something else had taken its place, a renewed sense of resolve, stronger and clearer than before. I made a silent promise to myself. I would carry my brother's roots, the grounding force of my family, with me on this journey. I would carry the echoes of my past, the lessons learned from loss and love. I would carry my own fear and my own ambition, not as burdens but as two sides of the same coin that made me who I am. This setback, this solar storm, had taught me a vital lesson. We climb higher, not to leave the world behind, but to bring the very best of it forward. It's about carrying the legacy of humanity, our art, our stories, our love, our resilience, into the future. It's about building a new world not on a foundation of escape, but on a foundation of everything we cherish from the old one. This mission was no longer just about reaching a destination. It was about honoring the journey and everyone who made it possible. And I was ready for whatever came next. Thank you so much for joining me on this part of the journey. It's your support and belief that keeps this project and creators like me moving forward. If you enjoyed this story and want to see what happens next, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single update. We have so much more to share with you. Until next time, keep looking up. In the space between the earth beneath our feet and the stars in our dreams, that's where we find our true purpose. For Sophia, that day had finally arrived. The first crewed launch of Artemis Rise. There she stood on the platform, a figure in a white-trimmed flight suit, the future of humanity strapped to her back. The ship, a monument to our collective ambition, loomed behind her. Its nose pointed to the heavens, engines quiet but thrumming with raw, untamed potential. A cathedral of metal and fire, ready to ascend. The launch tower, a complex skeleton of scaffolding and service arms, rose into the sky. The ground beneath her feet vibrated with the constant roar of fans and power systems, a mechanical heartbeat. Far below, a sea of reporters and officials watched, their cameras clicking in a strange, reverent silence. It was a moment suspended in time, the calm before the storm. Sophia took a deep, steadying breath. Her mind drifted back to the farm, to Adam, to the rustle of tall grass in the Kansas wind. She could almost hear his voice, a gentle reminder. Don't forget where you came from. Those roots, the rich soil of her past, were the foundation for this incredible ascent. She thought of Jake, his hands so steady, his smile a beacon of reassurance even when fear flickered in his own eyes. He was her anchor in this world of high stakes and higher altitudes. Then her thoughts turned to Marcus. The memories weren't as warm, but she had to admit, his relentless pressure, his constant challenges had forged her into someone stronger, more resilient. He had pushed her, and in doing so, had unwittingly helped her reach this very moment. And of course there was Dr. Lee, the woman who saw potential where others saw only doubt. Dr. Lee had given her a chance, a key to a door that had seemed permanently locked. Each person, a thread in the tapestry of her journey. And then, she looked at the earth. Our home. A breathtaking swirl of blue, green, and brown, all cradled within a delicate, paper-thin atmosphere. Its edges blurred into the infinite velvety blackness of space. It was a sight that humbled her, that filled her with a profound sense of responsibility. This was what it was all for, to protect this fragile, beautiful world, and to reach for what lay beyond it. But behind this serene public face, a hidden drama was unfolding. The kind of drama that can turn a dream into a nightmare in a heartbeat. The night before, during a final exhaustive check, engineers discovered a leak. A tiny, almost imperceptible flaw in an airlock seal. At ground level, it was a minor issue. In the vacuum of space, it was a catastrophic failure waiting to happen. The control room, once a hub of calm professionalism, was now a hive of frantic activity. Engineers scrambled, their faces illuminated by the glow of data streams, searching for a solution against a ticking clock. Elon Musk, a silent, imposing figure, watched from the corner, his expression unreadable. Every second felt like an eternity. Sophia was pulled from her quiet reflection and rushed to the maintenance bay. Under the harsh glare of industrial lights, engineers guided her through emergency procedures, her mind racing to absorb every detail. This wasn't just a drill. This was real. The launch window was narrow, and every wasted moment brought them closer to a scrubbed mission. The pressure was immense, a physical weight pressing down on the entire team. The world was watching, completely unaware of the crisis unfolding just out of sight. The fate of Artemis Rise, and the lives of its crew, hung on a single, faulty seal. The countdown had already begun, its relentless march echoing in the tense silence of the control room. T-minus 10 minutes, T-minus 8. The world held its breath, ready to witness history. Inside the facility, it was a race against time. Finally, at T-minus 6 minutes, a breakthrough. A collective sigh of relief, almost inaudible but deeply felt, swept through the room. It was time. The crew boarded, a finality settling over them as their suits were sealed. One by one, they ascended the ladder into the cabin, a metal womb that would carry them to the stars. Sophia climbed, her movements deliberate, practiced. She strapped herself into her seat, the harnesses clicking into place, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The cabin was a symphony of quiet hums and beeps, a stark contrast to the chaos just moments before. She looked at her crewmates, a shared understanding passing between them. This was it. T-minus 10 seconds. 9. 8. The final countdown, a mantra spoken by a disembodied voice, echoed through her helmet. 7. 6. 5. She gripped the controls. 4. 3. 2. 1. 0. Ignition. The world erupted. A deep, primal roar shook the very foundations of the launch platform. It wasn't just a sound. It was a physical force, a wave of energy that vibrated through every cell of her body. Flames, impossibly bright, roared from the base of the rocket, turning the night into a brilliant artificial dawn. Billows of steam engulfed the tower, obscuring everything in a dense white cloud. Then the ascent began. It was slow at first, a ponderous, majestic rise against the pull of gravity. The ship seemed to hang in the air for a moment, gathering its strength. Then, with a surge of unimaginable power, it accelerated. Faster and faster it climbed, a blazing arrow aimed at the heart of the cosmos. Sophia was pushed back into her seat, the G-forces immense but exhilarating. Below her, the world shrank away. And ahead, the endless, star-dusted darkness welcomed her home. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. If you were as captivated by Sophia's story as we were, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales of exploration and human ambition. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep looking up. Sound of gentle ambient space music begins and fades slightly into the background. Have you ever looked up at the stars and felt a pull, a longing for something more? A desire to see our world from a different perspective? That's the feeling that drove Sophia. Her whole life had been a countdown to this single moment. Launch day, the culmination of years of relentless training, sacrifice, and an unshakable dream to touch the void. Imagine the sheer force, the raw power of the rockets igniting beneath you. A bone-rattling vibration that shakes you to your very core, pushing you against your seat with an intensity that steals your breath. For Sophia, this wasn't just physics. It was destiny unfolding. The world outside her viewport was a blur of fire and smoke, a testament to humanity's ambition. Every bolt, every wire, every line of code was working in perfect harmony, a symphony of engineering lifting her away from everything she had ever known. Then silence. A profound, beautiful silence as the engines cut off. The rumbling ceased, replaced by the gentle hum of the life support system. As they cleared the launch tower, a new reality dawned. Earth, her home, began to recede. Sophia's stomach did a zero-gravity flip that had nothing to do with the lack of gravity. She pressed her hand to the cool glass of the window, a silent goodbye. The city lights, once familiar constellations on the ground, began to fade into a single brilliant jewel. The deep blue of the ocean swirled with clouds, the familiar shapes of continents shrinking with every passing second. It was a view that poets and dreamers had imagined for millennia, and it was hers. A quiet whisper escaped her lips, a promise to herself and to the world below. We're doing this. Just then the ship's calm, synthesized voice chimed through the cabin, a reassuring presence in the vast emptiness. Orbital insertion nominal. A wave of relief washed over her. Through her comms, the crackle of static gave way to a roar of celebration. Cheers erupted from mission control. She could almost see them, her team, her family of scientists and engineers, jumping up and down, hugging, their faces beaming with pride. They had done it. She had done it. Years of tireless work had paid off in this one glorious, triumphant moment. She was in orbit. The dream was no longer a dream. It was real. But space, like life, is unpredictable. In the midst of her victory lap around the planet, A small notification light blinked on her main console. An incoming message. Her heart, still soaring from the successful launch, skipped a beat. She expected congratulations, maybe a message from her parents, but the words that illuminated her screen were not celebratory. They were a dagger. Adam Green. Emergency. Critical condition. Her breath caught in her throat. The air in her helmet suddenly felt thick, heavy. Her heart, which had been pounding with exhilaration just moments before, plummeted into a cold, dark abyss. Adam. Her brother. It couldn't be. She stared at the message, her eyes scanning the terrifying words again and again. Had she misread? Was this a glitch? A cruel joke? Her mind, once sharp and focused, began to spin. The breathtaking view of Earth, the magnificent blue and white marble hanging in the blackness, suddenly felt distant, alien. The victory of the launch, the cheers from her team, all of it evaporated, replaced by a suffocating wave of guilt, fear, and utter confusion. She fumbled with her controls, her gloved fingers suddenly clumsy. She had to know more. She opened the comm link to Earth-based operations, her voice barely a whisper. "Mission Control, this is Sophia. I just received a personal message." The familiar, steady voice of the flight director came back, but this time, it was laced with a somber tone she had never heard before. "Sophia, we were just about to contact you. There's been an accident." The words hung in the air, each one a hammer blow. "It's your brother, Adam. A highway accident in Kansas. It's serious. You might want to step away from the main console for a moment." Her vision blurred. The perfect, spherical Earth swam before her eyes. Pushing her helmet visor up with a trembling hand, she massaged her temples, trying to fight back the wave of nausea and despair. Tears welled, defying gravity by clinging to her eyelashes. How could this be happening? Now, she was millions of feet above the planet, floating in a metal can, utterly helpless. A single, desperate question escaped her lips, her voice trembling. Am I in control? It was a question for Mission Control, but also for the universe itself. She was the commander of a state-of-the-art spacecraft, soaring farther and faster than almost any human in history, and yet, in that moment, she had never felt more powerless. The person she loved most in the world was in danger, and she was light years away in spirit, separated by an impossible distance. The weightlessness, the thrill of ascent, the sublime beauty of space, it all collapsed into this single crushing point of pain. She was trapped. Trapped between the cold, indifferent stars and a world that held her broken heart. For a few agonizing moments, she just floated, adrift in her grief. But then, a flicker of hope, a tiny spark in the overwhelming darkness. The comlink. She still had a connection. It wasn't a physical touch. It wasn't a comforting embrace. But it was something. It was a lifeline. With fingers that shook uncontrollably, she navigated the communications panel, rerouting her connection. Not to Mission Control, but to a small hospital in the heart of Kansas. She bypassed firewalls and security protocols, her training kicking in on autopilot. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she heard a new voice, faint and laced with static. The voice of a nurse. The sound of a beeping heart monitor pulsed in the background, a fragile rhythm across thousands of miles of vacuum and wires. Sophia took a ragged breath. She closed her eyes, picturing her brother's face, his easy smile. She thought of their childhood, running through the open fields of Kansas, the sun on their faces. She thought of the red barns and the towering grain silo he always said was his favorite landmark. She clung to these memories, these pieces of a life she now felt so far removed from. Gathering every ounce of strength she had left, she spoke into the microphone, her words a desperate prayer sent across the cosmos. "Please," she muttered, her voice thick with emotion. "Tell him I'm up here. Tell him I look down and see the fields. Tell him I love him." As her message traveled back to Earth, a fragile thread of hope across the void, Sophia turned back to the window. She watched the world spin below, a silent, beautiful and heartbreaking ballet. She was an astronaut, an explorer, a pioneer. But in that moment, she was also just a sister, sending her love home from the stars, praying it would be enough. Thank you so much for joining me on this emotional journey today. If you were moved by Sophia's story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores the depths of human experience. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you next time. Start with a quiet, contemplative tone, building emotion. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're telling a story that reaches for the stars but finds its heart right here on Earth. It's a story about ambition, loss, and the unbreakable threads that connect us no matter the distance. Imagine this. You've spent your entire life dreaming of one thing. For Sophia, that dream was space. Years of relentless training, sleepless nights studying astrophysics, and countless sacrifices all led to this single moment. The countdown, the thunderous roar of the engines, the crushing force of GS pinning her to her seat as the Artemis Rise mission clawed its way through the atmosphere. She was finally leaving Earth, ascending into the silent, star-dusted blackness she had only ever seen in textbooks. It was the absolute pinnacle of her life, a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph. But as the rocket's roar faded and the silence of orbit enveloped the capsule, another feeling crept in, a cold, heavy counterweight to her joy. Grief. Just hours before launch, her brother Adam had suffered a sudden collapse. The final image she had of him wasn't a proud wave goodbye, but the frantic, terrifying scene of medics rushing him away. The mission protocols were ironclad. There was no turning back. She had to board that ship carrying the weight of a world she was leaving behind and the unbearable uncertainty of her brother's fate. Floating in the zero gravity of the cockpit, the Earth hangs below her, a breathtaking, swirling marble of blue and white. It's a view that has humbled kings and inspired poets. For Sophia, it's a source of profound conflict. Every city light twinkling on the night side of the planet is a reminder of the 7 billion lives down there, and the one life that means everything to her. The joy of achieving her lifelong dream feels hollow, tainted by the crushing fear of losing her brother. The two emotions are at war within her, a silent, personal battle waged in the vast emptiness of space. She whispers to the ship's AI, her voice barely audible, "Give me a minute." In the sterile silence of the cockpit, broken only by the hum of the life support systems, she finally lets go. A single tear escapes and floats before her, a perfect, shimmering sphere of salt water reflecting the distant Earth. It is a tear for the overwhelming joy of her achievement and the devastating grief of her potential loss, all colliding in this one surreal moment. Her own heartbeat thumps a frantic rhythm in her helmet, the only sound in her universe. But Sophia is an astronaut. She was chosen for her resilience, her ability to perform under unimaginable pressure. She takes a deep, steadying breath, the kind she practiced 1,000 times in simulations. She wipes the floating tear from the air. This mission, Artemis Rise, was never just about escaping Earth or planting a flag on a new frontier. It was about connection, about extending humanity's reach, while strengthening the bonds that make us human in the first place. With renewed purpose, she turns to the communications console. Her fingers, steady now, fly across the interface. She types a message not to mission control, but to a small hospital room thousands of miles below. A message of pure, desperate hope sent across the void. "Brother, I'm up here. I love you. Stay with us." She hits send, and the message silently beams its way back to Earth. The wait is agonizing. Seconds stretch into minutes, minutes into an eternity. Down on Earth, in that sterile hospital room, a nurse holds a tablet next to Adam's still form. Sophia's message appears, her face pictured beside it, smiling from the cockpit with the Earth glowing behind her. The medics are working, their voices a low, urgent murmur. The faint, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor is the only thing connecting him to the world of the living. Sophia stares out the viewport, her gaze fixed on the serene blue curve of the Earth. From this vantage point, the sprawling cities, the borders, the conflicts, They all seem so trivial, so small. She realizes something profound. Distance doesn't diminish love. If anything, the vast empty expanse between them only makes her connection to her brother feel sharper, more intense, more precious. It's a bond that transcends physics, a force stronger than gravity. Then, a new message blinks onto her screen. A simple line of text from her family on the ground. Adam responding. He's seeing your picture. He's awake. A breath she didn't even know she was holding bursts from her lungs in a ragged, shuddering sob. The dam of professionalism finally breaks, and tears of pure, unadulterated relief stream down her face, no longer contained. They float freely around her in the zero-G, a constellation of her own making. The sterile hum of the ship's comm crackles, a mundane sound that suddenly feels like the most beautiful music she has ever heard. She leans back in her seat, closing her eyes, and just breathes. In that moment, Sophia understands. Her life had always been a relentless climb, a pursuit of knowledge, rockets, and ambition, but tonight, suspended between heaven and earth, it wasn't about the stars she was reaching for, but the person she was holding on to. Tonight was about love. Weeks turn into a month. The Artemis Rise mission is a resounding success. Sophia and her crew have established the first orbital habitat modules, a gleaming ring of science and hope circling the Earth. Life in space becomes a new kind of normal. Sophia glides through the habitat in zero-G, her movements fluid and practiced. She's no longer just an astronaut. She's a pioneer, a farmer in the final frontier. Inside the biolab dome, she carefully plants the first seeds brought from Earth. These aren't just any seeds. They are part of an ambitious project using technology originally designed for Martian colonization. The goal is no longer just to learn how to grow food on another planet, but to revolutionize agriculture for Earth itself. She watches as the first tiny seedlings twist their way toward the artificial sunlight, a vibrant splash of green against the sterile white of the module. They are a symbol of renewal, a promise that humanity's journey into space is not about abandoning our home, but about finding new ways to save it. Down in Houston, a press conference is being broadcast worldwide. Elon Musk, the visionary behind the mission, stands at a podium. His words echo Sophia's newfound understanding. Humanity may leave Earth sooner than we think, he says, his voice steady and clear. Not because Earth must be abandoned, but because Earth must be saved. Our work in orbit is a catalyst for innovation, for a new era of sustainability that will benefit everyone back home. Sophia watches the broadcast on a monitor, floating in the quiet of the habitat. The Earth fills her window, a constant, beautiful reminder of what's at stake. Tears well in her eyes again, but this time, they are tears of hope. They are not just escaping Earth, they are carrying Earth with them, in their hearts, in their minds, and in the very seeds they plant. Later, she initiates a video call. On the screen, her brother Adam's face appears. He's smiling, looking healthier and stronger than he has in weeks. He's back home. Sophia smiles back, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reaches her eyes. I'm orbiting the Earth, she says, her voice soft. She glances out the window at the magnificent blue sphere below them. And you know what's funny? I feel closer to you now than I ever have before. This story reminds us that no matter how far we travel or what technological marvels we achieve, our greatest strength will always be our connection to one another. The future of humanity isn't just in the stars above us, but in the love we hold for those beside us, even when they're a world away. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories that explore the intersection of humanity and technology. We'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that's part science fiction, part profound human truth. It's a story that asks a huge question. What if leaving Earth is the only way to truly save it? Picture this. A woman named Sophia Green floating in orbit looking down at our beautiful swirling blue marble. Her brother, who she was once estranged from, is stable back on Earth. They've reconnected, healed a fractured bond, all while she's hundreds of miles above him. On the screen in front of her is Jake, his grin stretching from ear to ear, telling her, "You're amazing." In that single moment, a profound realization hits her. The shocking punchline isn't that we leave Earth behind. It's that we can never truly leave it behind. This isn't just a fantasy. It's a powerful metaphor for our future. We often think of space exploration as an escape plan, a plan B for when Earth is no longer habitable. But what if it's something more? What if, in order to save our planet, we first have to expand beyond it? What if, to truly understand what it means to be human, we have to leave home but carry home with us in our hearts? This is where the story of Sophia gets really interesting. It's more than just a tale of advanced engineering and rocket science. It's a deep dive into human psychology and social evolution. Think about it for a second. What is the one thing that has always pushed humanity forward? From the first time our ancestors walked out of a cave to the moment we stepped on the moon, it's always been purpose. A drive to explore, to understand, to build something better. In Sophia's story, that purpose is what ties her to Earth, even as she floats in the vastness of space. Leaving Earth, whether it's in the near future or a distant one, isn't an act of abandonment. It's a monumental act of faith. It's faith in our ability to innovate and rebuild. It's faith in our capacity to evolve as a species, to overcome our differences. Most importantly, it's faith born from our deep, unshakable love for this planet and for each other. The very act of looking back at Earth from a distance could be the perspective shift we desperately need to finally come together and solve the problems we've created. So here's the shocking twist, the big idea I want you to walk away with today. Humanity's next giant leap isn't just a physical journey into space. It's an inward journey, back into a deeper understanding of what home really means. Is home a physical place, a plot of land, or is it a feeling, a connection, a network of relationships that grounds us? Whether we're orbiting our home planet or one day stepping onto the red soil of Mars, the fundamental question will always be the same. What keeps us grounded when the ground is literally no longer beneath our feet? What anchors us in the infinite void? For Sophia, floating in her vessel, the Artemis Rise, the answer was crystal clear. It wasn't the advanced technology or the mission objectives. It was simple: love, family, and a sense of purpose. These are the things that make us human. These are the tethers that connect us to Earth, no matter how far we travel. Life is full of surprises, isn't it? Sometimes, the most spectacular event, like a rocket launching into the heavens, isn't the grand finale. It's just the beginning. The beginning of a long journey back to remembering what truly matters. As the stars took their silent, glittering places beyond Sophia's window, her heart found its place too. It was a heart rooted firmly in the soil of Earth, yet reaching for the limitless possibilities of the universe. She was finally ready for the new beginning she had always dreamed of. Not an escape from her past, but a future built upon it. A future where humanity doesn't just survive, but thrives by carrying the best parts of itself. Our love, our connections, our shared home, out into the cosmos. What do you think? Is this our future? Is this journey into space the ultimate test of our humanity? The thing that will force us to finally appreciate the precious home we have? I truly believe that by reaching for the stars, we might just find our way back to ourselves. We might discover that home isn't just where we are, but who we are together. And that's a future worth striving for. Thanks so much for watching and exploring this big idea with me today. If this sparked something in you, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that pushes the boundaries of what we think is possible. I'll see you in the next one.